Alrighty, welcome to this video. In this tutorial, we're going to go a little bit further into HTML. We're going to start talking about image and colors, background pictures, background colors, and all kinds of stuff. So let's hop into an editor. So again, you want to do good file management here. I'm going to just create a new folder. We'll just call it HTML IMG. No, let's just call it IMG for images. It's kind of the main thing we'll be talking about here. And I will save it. So file save as. We'll call it, head over to the desktop, IMG folder, there it is, double click, img.html is what I will call it here. First thing is the doc type. Oops. Okay, then we have an HTML tag. This is something that you'll want to commit to memory for sure because you'll be doing this a lot. Head, close out the head. Body, close out the body. Pretty simple, right? Right. Okay, first thing, title tag. So title tag, we'll call it, I don't know, image page, whatever the heck you want to call it. We're going to be putting pictures in here and play around with background images and colors. The first thing, though, we're going to talk about is meta tags. And again, let me kind of remind you, if you can't remember what something does, just go to Google or some search engine and say like meta tags W3. And then you'll get the W3 page on the meta tags. So there they are. So if I were to use this, again, I wouldn't want to copy and paste. I would just want to type it out so I can remember it. So the first meta tag is a char set. It's UTF-8-8. What that does is it tells the browser to use the character set UTF-8, which basically contains almost every character known to man. So if your site needed to be displayed in Chinese or Japanese or Russian or some crazy language that doesn't use the English characters, the character set UTF-8 would have that. So it's just telling the browser to use that character set, which is kind of interesting. If it doesn't, it goes to the default. What's the default? I don't know. Sorry. So next one is name description. And that's just what it sounds when I do a content equals quote. This is just a description of the page. So this is me putting in pictures. Or if I wanted to, I could do something else like Monty Python and the Holy Grail website. I hope I don't get sued here. All right, so the next one, then I go meta name equals keywords. So this stuff is kind of for back in the day. Back in 95, 2000, when the web was just kind of beginning, these search engines relied very heavily on these meta tags. Whatever the meta tags said, they knew exactly what the website was about, and then they'd be able to categorize them. But nowadays, things have changed. Google does things a little bit differently. Google depends on a bunch of other things. But meta tags have slowly gone away, but they're still good. I mean, they can help a little bit with SEO, search engine optimization, but there's still other things you need to do beside the meta tags. So keywords would be like Monty, Python, Holy Grail, knee, knights, killer, rabbit, black knight, thou, anyway, thou shalt not pass. I don't know. No, that's that's Lord of the Rings. But anyways, oh, this is a good one. Run away, coconuts, sparrow, okay, and so forth. If you haven't seen the movie, you're probably going, what the heck? If you've seen it, it's all good stuff. And if you haven't seen it, you need to go see it. So this is just all the keywords that the site would have. So if you're selling shoes or something, you'd have shoes, Nike, whatever. If you wanted people to be able to find you locally, you'd want to have the city and state that you're in. Just all the different keywords that you would want people, when they type into Google, to have yourself come up. That's what you're going to want to put in there for keywords. Okay, the last one is just author. You don't have to have this, especially if there's multiple people working on the site. But I guess you could have multiple authors. But I'll just throw my name in there. So name equals author, content is Dave Kidd. Okay, let's get rid of that. So let's run it into Chrome. Nothing. Yeah, because this is in the head tag. Remember, stuff in the head tag is usually behind the scenes. We'll change this now because we decided to go another route. Monty Python. All right, so again, this is just metadata is just data that describes data. It's just descriptive stuff. Alrighty. Moving on. So, oops, I am a horrible person. I was putting all of that not inside the head tag. There we go. Now we're good to go. So let's go and grab an HD picture from Monty Python. Again, follow copyright laws here. That's a big one. I like that one. You can tell how big it is because down here it gives you the dimensions. 1920 by 1200 or some 1080 is Blu-ray resolution. That's what you get on your HD TVs, unless it's a 4K. So I want something big, something that's going to look good. Sure, I like that one. Now again, remember this is 1920 by 1080, so this is a really big picture. So I'm going to hit View Image. Yeah, it may look like this is the size. No, I click on the plus button here, the little zoom button, and this is the actual size of the picture. So it's pretty big. But that's okay. That's what I want. So I'm going to right click, save image as, and I'm going to save this inside of my IMG folder because that's where I'm putting everything. So I'll just call it MP for Monty Python. Again, everything lowercase, everything's short, easy to remember, and you don't want multiple words in the naming of your stuff. All right, so let's go take a look. So there it is. Now really when you start getting into it, you're going to want to have like an images folder. And you want to put all of your pictures in there. So I'm going to click and drag that into images. Just because if you're doing a site and you have 20 different HTML pages and you have 100 different pictures, you don't want all of that in the same folder. It can get really hard to find things. So an images folder is always a good idea to just put all your pictures in there. All right, so let's put that on our page. So we're going to do that in the body. Okay. I'm going to say IMG src equals quote quote. So we're using the image tag to put in a picture. So IMG is the image tag, and then the attribute src stands for source, and we have to tell the code where the picture is in relation to the HTML file. So the HTML file is right here inside of this image folder. Well, I guess IMG folder. And then we put the picture inside of an images folder. So if I just said load mp.jpg, by the way, this is how you open and close a tag in one. If you just do a slash right there, that'll open and close it in one. So it's called mp.jpg. So I'm going to run it. So run, launch in Chrome. Okay, it's not working. But that's because I told it, okay, this image.html file is right here, and I'm telling that the mp.jpg is going to be in the same place, which it's not. If you don't tell it to go in any folders, you're telling it that it's going to be in the same spot, which it's not. It's inside of a folder called images. So we have to say images slash. So we're telling it go inside of this folder called images and then display mp.jpg, which it can. So when we save that and we refresh, it works. Okay, so what would happen if I took this HTML page and I threw it in there? So now I have HTML and MP inside of images. Well, if I come back here, it doesn't work anymore. It's not even found because I totally moved it. So I'll open it back up. Still doesn't work. All right, so I got to open this back up in a notepad. Still doesn't work because now it's in the same spot as MP. So I just get rid of that, and then it would work. But I don't want that there. So I'm going to cut it, come back up, paste it. So it's always in relationship to where the HTML file is. If the picture's in an images file, well, you got to tell it to go into images, go into the images folder, and then display it. So that's why it's really important to where you always know where this HTML file is, and you always know where all your other files are too. All right, so images slash MP. Oh, it's because we moved it back, so we'll open that up again. Okay, so there we go. It's working. That's pretty big. I want to shrink it down. So I'm going to say width equals, let's go 400. All right, now it's 400 pixels across, and because I didn't define a height, it constrained it. It kept it from getting all weird and stretched. I could define a height though. I could say height equals like 200. Well, let's do something more like 100. And if I come back here, now we're starting to kind of squish it up. But I'm not going to define the height because I want the proportions to stay good so it doesn't look funky. Okay, now there's two things we got to pay attention to. There's physical size, like how big it is on the page, and then there's file size. If I right-click the file and I go to Properties, it's 260 kilobytes, which isn't too bad. But usually with your pictures, you want it to be anywhere from a couple kilobytes to like 50. If you have to, 100's okay, but you want anything really below 50. But when you start getting big pictures that are going to be your background, they're going to get bigger in file size. So here's the thing. If I take this file and I shrink it down, or if I take this picture and I shrink it down to 200, it's still 260 something kilobytes. It's still 265 kilobytes. Doesn't matter how big it is on the page, it'll always be that file size. So the only way we can cut down file size is if we come into like Photoshop. Let me open it up. Because this is something that people do all the time, is they'll shrink down the size of the picture and they think just because it's smaller on the page, say like if I do a save image as, I can call it MP2. If I look at the properties of that, it's still 265 kilobytes, even though it was a lot smaller. So I have to throw it into Photoshop. So I'll just click and drag it in here. And this tells me that I'm at 33% of the picture. So if I zoom in to 100%, this is the actual size of the picture here. So if I do File Save As, actually I don't want to do that yet. Sorry, I'm going to go to Image Size. This is, remember, it's 1920 by 1080, so I'm going to shrink it down to like 500 by 281 height. So now this is the actual size of the picture. So cutting down the physical size inside of Photoshop will lower the actual file size. But doing it with HTML like this, no, it's still going to be as big as it's going to be. So that's why if you've ever been to a website and you see a picture just slowly loading, that's because they lowered the physical size, but they didn't lower the file size. So now I'm going to do a file save as. Now that I've actually shrunk it down a little bit, we'll call it MP. We'll just replace it. And now it's telling me that it's probably going to be about 75 kilobytes, which is great. So we went from 265 down to 75, that's totally what we want. Now, if we wanted to, we could lower the quality, and that would lower the file size. But I'm okay with 75. That's not too bad. So I'll hit OK. So now if I right-click and go to Properties, it's not 265 anymore. It's actually 71, about 72, which isn't too bad. And then because I replaced the original, if I come back here and just refresh, now I'm loading the 75 kilobyte version instead of the 265. And another thing to pay attention to, if I make this big, because I shrunk it down, if I make it big, it's going to get really pixelated. And it's not going to look as good as it would if it was the original. So it's the sacrifices you make. You get lower file size, but the picture's going to look a lot worse if you blow it up and make it bigger. If you get the high file size and it looks great when it's big and you shrink it down, it'll still look good, but the file size will still be big. So it's just this balancing act you have to do. You basically have to find the perfect balance between a good file size and then a good, that'll look good on the size that it needs to be on the page. So it's about 500 is where we wanted it. So that looks good. That looks fine. Another thing you need to do with these image tags is the alt attribute. These are basically image descriptions. These do a couple things. So I could say King Arthur looking up, right? I can't remember what part of the thing it was. It's probably the coconut part where they're banging the coconuts together. Anyways, looking up at castle something. All right, so believe it or not, blind people surf the web, and blind people can't see these images, but they use screen readers. They're programs that read to them what's on the page. So a screen reader would see this alt attribute, and it would read to them, hey, this is a picture, and it's King Arthur looking up at a castle. It would read them exactly what we have here. But also, another thing that it does is if the link to the picture is broken, we at least get this description so we get an idea of what it was supposed to be. Also, Google looks at these. All the search engines look at this. Google can't really, I mean, it can a little bit, but it can't really scan a picture and know exactly what it's about. You can't really look at this and know it's King Arthur from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. But if we give it an alt attribute and say King Arthur from Monty Python and the Holy Grail looking at the castle, then it gets a better idea of what the picture is about. So these are required if you want your code to validate. So you want to make sure you're always doing this with all the image tags that you play around with. Okay. Next thing we're going to talk about are the different types of pictures. So I'm going to save this and I'll just call it Apple. So there's three types of images. Well, there's more, but the main ones are JPEGs, PNGs, and GIFs. GIFs. And I'm not going to go too much into it, but I am going to open this one up here in Photoshop because I do want to show you something. So the main differences between PNGs and JPEGs is JPEGs can't do transparent backgrounds. And that's what I'm going to show you here in a minute. Also, JPEGs can't do animation. The good thing about JPEGs is they support millions of color. They're low in file size. but they can't do animations and they can't do transparent backgrounds. So they're basically good for photos. Like this is good that we're using a JPEG for this because it's a photo, it supports all the different colors, and we're good there. But let me show you what I mean by the transparent background. So I'm going to come over here in Photoshop and I'm going to bust open this background and I'm going to use the magic wand and I'm going to delete it. All right, so we can see that I got rid of this white background. And I'm going to save it as two different things. I'm going to save it as an apple.jpg. All right, so we got the apple.jpg, and then I'm going to save it as a PNG. So we'll call it apple.png. So then we're going to come over here, and this is something else we want to learn, is BG color equals, we'll just say aqua. So this is how you can change the background color of your page. All right, so BG color equals the name of a color or hex numbers, which we'll talk about in a while here. But I need to change the background color so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. So we have two different pictures, a JPEG and a PNG. JPEGs don't support transparent backgrounds, PNGs do. So I'm going to come in here, throw in a couple BR tags, and then we will put in the pictures. The source equals, okay, what's the source? It's going to be images/apple.jpg. So images/apple.jpg, close it out, and we'll throw it in there. All right, so you can see how it has this gross square white background, even though in Photoshop we got rid of it. Because JPEGs don't support getting rid of this. You're always going to have this square. So if I throw in the other one, we'll call it apple.png. Okay, oh, did I not call it that? What did I call it? What doesn't it like? I must have not saved it right. So let's try it again. So file save as PNG. It must not be that I must not have picked that. So save, want to replace it, yes. Okay, yeah, I didn't do this before. So I think I just typed in the extension and that wasn't good enough. I actually had to choose it on that drop down. Okay, it's happy now. So now I come back, refresh. Okay, and that's the difference. So PNG support, now that I came in here and I erased the background, PNG support that. So now it looks like it's floating on the page. It's just there. Instead of here, I get this nasty white background, and even though I erased it in Photoshop, JPEGs don't care. They're still going to add that because they don't support the see-through stuff. So that's the big difference between PNGs and JPEGs. You can also animate PNGs. You can do little animated PNGs. Same with GIFs, GIFs. And the main difference with GIFs and these is GIFs only support, I think it's 256 colors. So you don't ever want to do a photo with GIFs. It's going to look really bad. But they're good for solid color things. If you're doing logos with a solid blue color, a GIF is good because it's a low file size. But it only supports a certain amount of color. So if you have this picture where you got all these different, here I got all these different shades of red, GIF isn't really going to cut it. JPEGs are usually smaller in file size, so this JPEG here is what? Yeah, 4 kilobytes, 8 kilobytes, whatever, that's really small. The PNG is a little bit bigger, so we got 50 kilobytes. So JPEGs are really good with the color support, and they're really low file size, same with the GIFs, but the PNG support the transparent backgrounds, but they're a little bit bigger in file size. Really important that you understand that when you're doing web design. All right, so if you want to get different pictures, there are different websites, freeimages.com. We got Pixabay is another one, and then Pexels. These are websites that just give you free stock photos. So if I wanted a picture of, I don't know, a tiger, we got all these that are free. We can use them without worrying about copyright infringement. But then we have these over here that they cost money, and these usually look a little bit better. They've been photoshopped. They're just a little more high quality pictures. But these are the ones that cost money, but then you have here, these are free. With these guys, you do have to create an account to be able to download the HD version of these pictures. It's free, so it's not a big deal. So you can just click on free files and it'll just show you all the free pictures that you can use. These are good if you're doing client work, but not good if you're doing portfolio work. You don't want to use work that isn't yours when you're trying to show off how good you are, right? But if you're doing client work and they need, like, I need a picture of a lion or a tiger, you can't go off to Africa and start taking these, so just go here and grab what they have. So same thing, Pixabay, you got this. I think you got the sponsored images that cost money, and then you have the free pictures that you can go in here and just use any of these. That's a tiger too, right? Anyways, you got free images, you got Pixabay, and then you have Pexels. Usually when you pick one that you want, it will say something like, yeah, it'll give the license. So free for personal and commercial use, no attribution required, so just follow what they say here. So this is basically free to use however the heck you want, which is nice. Okay, so hex values. I'm going to Google hex values. These are numeric values for colors. So I can come here and I had aqua and that worked great, but what if I wanted more of like this color? Well, this is the numeric value of that color. So I can copy that and throw it in here. And then when I load it, it gives me that color. So what these represent is RGB. So this is the red value, this is the green value, and this is the blue value, the E6. If you do all Fs, that means all the colors. This is the full value of all the colors. The full value of red, full value of green, full value of blue, and you get white. If you have a flashlight and you just have all the colors shooting on the wall, it's going to be white because you have all of the colors in the spectrum there. It's kind of amazing that you can basically make any color on the spectrum by combining RGB, red, green, and blue. Now I'm going to say no red, no green, no blue. Well, when you have absence, if that's the word, of all the colors, it's black, right? So that's how it is. FF is the full value of the color. So if I do all red, no green, no blue, well, you're going to get red, right? If I go no red, all green, and no blue, what are we going to get? Green, all right? So then you can start mixing your colors and start getting what you need there. So that's how the hex values work. All right, last thing I want to show you is instead of BG color, you can do background equals something. So this is how you would do a background color. Now there are these really cool things if you Google repeatable backgrounds. Let's head right here. I think this is a good one. Yeah, backgroundhost.com. This is a good one. Now here's the problem. I'm going to put in the Apple PNG. So images/apple.png. Let me show you what happens. Oh man. So when you put in background equals and then the picture, it'll put it in there, but it'll also repeat it. By default, it just repeats and it just goes forever. Well, something like a repeatable background, that's good. Let me show you why. I don't know if they have. Let's just grab this one. So you can click on what you want and it'll give you an idea of what it looks like before you download it. Actually, I like that one. So I'm going to grab this. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to come over here. And then I'm just going to right click it and do save image as. And I'll call it BG for background. There are other ones. I want to say there's one other that I think, yeah, I think I probably like this one better. Seems to be a little bit cooler. This one doesn't do much. So anyways, just make sure they're free, and then you can grab whatever one you want. But I call this bg.png, so because it repeats, by default, I should be good because that's what you want. You want it to repeat. Okay, so it's repeating, but yet it looks like one full background, which is good. And the power here is when I right-click this and go to Properties, this is 19 kilobytes, so the server only has to make you download this file once. You download the 19 kilobytes once, and then the code repeats it. So even though it's being repeated, 30, 40 times here, it only had to download once because the code repeats it. So it's a good way to save on bandwidth. So anyways, that's how you do it. Let me put the code out here, so if you want to pause it, you can and take a look. But this is how you do the background picture. BG color is how you do a background color. And this is how you put in the images and make sure you're always doing the alt attribute. So hope that helped, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Let me know if you have any questions.